These sins are gone without a trace.
Hello, my name is Darnell Taylor. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I grew up in the projects. Every day I was being exposed to gangs and violence and drugs. On almost a daily basis, I was being shot at. There was days where I was just sitting in my home and just hanging out watching TV, and next thing you know, they're shooting and bullets are hitting my window. My basketball coach at the time pointed out 5 people who he thought would either be dead or in jail within the next 5 years, and I was one of them. Well, that summer, my friend Marcus died. He was shot down in our neighborhood. That kind of stung me and it shook me to my core. After that, I just sort of had this change in direction in my life, and I no longer sought basketball. I no longer, wanted to go to college. I was just a kid who just hung out and just like, well, you know what? My best friend is gone. There's really no reason to live. Every morning before we went to school, we would smoke weed and get high. And I would not even go home. I would just go hang out with my friends, and we would drink beer or just hang out until 12 o'clock in the morning. And there was a lot going on at home. I got into this really big fight with my brother, and I got kicked out of my mother's house, and I went to go live with my grandmother. One day I just decided I haven't seen some of my friends in a long time, so I went back into my neighborhood to hang out with some of my old friends. And it seemed like all hell broke loose on this night. I get over there, and there was like fights started breaking out, and all sorts of things started happening. There was this fight that I got involved to with some of my friends, and I didn't think anything of it. There was a little scuffle. The fight was over with. We all went home, and everything was okay. Well, weeks later, I get a knock on my door, and it was the police, and they wanted to talk to me about this fight. And I went down to the station and talked with the police down at the station. Before I knew it, I was being arrested for murder, and I received 20 years, and in that 20 years, I was sent to the state prison. I felt hopeless. I felt this sense that I had let so many people down. Like, I knew that my mother had big hopes for me. Like, I knew that she believed in me. My life had just got to this point where it was worthless, and there was just nothing to me, and this is where I was going to be for the rest of my life. And I had no sense that my situation could change because I was facing murder, and I just felt like this was over. And it was at that point that God began to speak to my heart and began to talk to me. But there was just something in my bed as I was laying in my bed, just something just told me, like, Darnell, like, you need to give your life to Jesus, or you need to give your life to Christ, or you need to read the Bible and find out who God is and what God is all about. And so I did that, and I started asking questions. I started reading the Bible. In spite of the situation, in spite of what I saw, from reading the Bible gave me this sense of faith that I can believe beyond my circumstance, or that I can believe beyond where I was, and believe that even though I think this may not change, that it can change, and that I can have faith that He would change my situation and that it wouldn't have to remain this way. And you fast forward a couple more years after that, I was released from prison, and I moved here to North Carolina with a sister who lived not too far from Grace Church. God has created a man out of me, and one of the ways He has done that is He has shown me how to take responsibility for my own life, how to take responsibility for my actions and the decisions that I made. And one of the cool things that came out of my whole life and coming here to North Carolina is that God put in my path this beautiful woman, and He created her to love me. There's no better way to express the amount of joy and redemption that God has brought into my life, other than my daughter, Brielle, who has been an absolute joy and a pleasure to be her father. But one of the ways God is using me today is He's using me to reach out to high schoolers, to share my story of God's grace in my life, to reach high schoolers, to share with them the same grace that God has shown me.